Good morning, YouTube. Can I ask you something? What was the weirdest game you played when you were a kid? Maybe it was a strange CD-ROM game on your mom's old off-white laptop that burned your arm whenever you got too close to the air vents. Maybe it was a dinky little PS2 game that you can't quite remember the name of, but it's right on the tip of your tongue. Or was it possibly an underappreciated masterpiece that you still hold very dear to your heart? Well, you may be wondering why I'm asking, and I'll tell you. It's because I recently ordered a game from my childhood that I hold vivid memories from. For nostalgia purposes, of course, you know me. Now, I was tentative about replaying it, I'll admit, because some things just don't end up living up to your memories. But wow,
look at that shine!
This thing was just as good as I remember, to the point that I immediately sat down to write this script as soon as I finished my playthrough. And my god, this thing was weird. The game I speak of was known as Spongebob, Creature from the Krusty Krab, which I played non-stop on my old silver PS2. And I think I mentioned in my Spider-Man 2000 video that I didn't have a memory card until much later in life, so I once again learned to speedrun this thing as efficiently as possible before bedtime rolled around. Which was surprisingly effective, actually. It got me to the end of the game, at least. But I just couldn't quite beat that last level. I spent all night working at it until my mom made me go to bed at 2 in the morning and shut off the system. Much to my dismay, because I knew I'd have to start all over again the next morning. And I never actually got to that ending again. Not until the other day, and it was an absolute blast. One thing I love about Creature from the Krusty Krab is the fact that it never shies away from the weird and unusual, and it owns it during its final missions, especially the last one, which I'll get to. But first, Creature from the Krusty Krab, which I'm now going to refer to simply as CKK, to keep from losing my mind saying it over and over again, has the downright strangest story I've ever seen in a game, and I 100% mean that as a compliment. The entire premise comes from that one episode of SpongeBob entitled Sleepy Time, that I won't show any clips from to avoid getting eaten alive by Nickelodeon's content bots. But in it, SpongeBob visits the dreams of the other characters and screws them up on accident. In CKK, however, the intruder into these dreams is, and you'll never guess this, a Krabby Patty. A sentient Krabby Patty. A sentient Krabby Patty with an Eggman mustache. Again, CKK didn't care at all how unusual it was. Like, the talking, dream-invading Krabby Patty isn't even that odd given the context of everything else that happens before it's revealed. Let me get to that, actually. First off, we enter SpongeBob's dream, in which he becomes a hot rod racer and his bed is transformed into a car.
Hot dog, Daddy-O! My bed is transmogrified into a lean, mean racing machine. Time to put the pedal to the metal, the rubber to the road, and the sponge to the straight.
Oh, and he looks like this! Yeah, childhood nightmare fuel right there. And before I go any further, I should mention that every character's story is split up into a few different sections of varying gameplay, which again, I'll get to in a bit. In SpongeBob's first section, he's a racer looking for parts to upgrade his vehicle, before falling into a pit halfway through his race against Gary. Yeah, the snail. And then gets swallowed by an Alaskan bullworm. And then spends time alongside Farmer Jenkins. Yeah.
Don't remind me. I knew no good would come from city folk and their flying machines! That's it!
That guy. Trying to get the worm to throw them up before they're inevitably digested. The way I phrase that kind of sounds dark, but trust me, it's all explained in a very child-friendly way.
But don't you want to get out? Aren't you worried about being digested?
No, sirree, there ain't no digesting going on. We're respectable folks. Just ask all the people who live down here. They're nice people, if you don't mind the smell.
I can't live in here. It's moist and slimy. I absorb moist sliminess. I've got to get out of here.
Now once our titular yellow square is swallowed, the game jumps to Patrick's dream, in which he's a superhero known as Starfisman. In a world where everyone's already starfish. It makes sense that it's the only thing a guy like Patrick would be able to come up with, so I like it. And he fights against a villain known as the Dreaded Patrick? Is everyone in this universe both a starfish and named Patrick? Huh. I feel that would get confusing rather quickly. Think of the elections. The ballot list is just 4 names that are all just Patrick in varying handwriting, and you have to just guess wildly and hope the one you picked is the right star. But before I get caught up in overthinking the societal issues of a dream world envisioned by this guy,
it's a giraffe!
I'm going to move on. It's your usual run-of-the-mill superhero story, and honestly, this is my favorite section of the entire game. Mainly because it's by far the most stylized section. Everything is cel-shaded, and made to look like it was ripped straight from a comic book. Even the sounds are made to match this aesthetic.
Don't do it again! Whiter than white? Sounds like it'll do the job. Here you go, Mayor. I've collected all this laundry detergent. Now we can clean up the town together. What are you talking about, Starfish Man? You've already taken care of Dreaded Patrick's goons. Thanks for your help. Must go, places to go, things to do. But what am I gonna do with all this laundry detergent?
Anywho, Patrick comes very close to defeating the Dreaded Patrick, but unfortunately loses the final battle and gets tied to a rocket. He's then sent to
the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
We're then shifted to arguably the strangest, but honestly, a quite welcome character perspective. We enter Plankton's dream, and I'm pretty sure this is the only mainstream Spongebob game that allows you to play as him. In his dream, he attempts to recreate a Krabby Patty by using an enlarging device to turn a crumb into the full thing. But this is Plankton, remember? This guy?
You'll never catch me, Krabs. Not when I shift into maximum overdrive. Hi-ya! I knew I should have gotten the turbo.
So of course it goes horribly wrong and turns the patty into a giant monstrosity hell-bent on No! None of that! Not here! He also enlarges himself, but only to the size of a regular citizen.
Power failure imminent.
I'm huge! I'm gigantic! I'm fast! Huh?
Morning!
Well, it's still an improvement. Now where's that crabby delicacy? Time for patty payback! Oh, this is not good! I shall...
Plankton then gets chased to the city before finally getting back to his enlarging device, which turns him into a 60s Godzilla movie. We then cut back to Spongebob in the belly of the beast, where he escapes with Farmer Jenkins in a makeshift plane. The two ride off into the sunset, in which Patrick is still tied to that rocket, entering the stratosphere. Our star has a bit of a joyride in space before eventually coming back down right around the same time that Spongebob and Jenkins run into Plankzilla, who's busy tearing up the city in his search for the crabby monstrosity that was trying to eat him earlier. While Spongebob battles in the skies, Patrick takes to the rooftops, fighting through hordes of these guys.
Army, look around you, Krabs! You planted grass? Grass?
There's no real explanation as to why and how they show up, but hey, it's a dream, I'll cut it some slack. And besides, it's nowhere near the levels of strange compared to everything else that's happened up until this point. Anywho, Patrick is eventually able to shrink Plankton down to his normal size, but the three in such close proximity causes their dreams to break down and throw them into a white void, where they are confronted with the Krabby Patty that they all ate a part of earlier in that day. A patty that caused their dreams to take such strange twists and turns. The trio chase after it, and are pitted in a race against one another to catch the beast. Spongebob wins the race, of course, catches the Krabby Patty, wakes up from his dream,
and then brutally murders this sentient creature for all the patrons of the Krusty Krab to devour. With or without relish.
Hey, stupid! I said without relish!
One Krabby Patty, no relish, coming right up.
Patrick wins the race, of course, catches the Krabby Patty,
and devours!
Actually, it ends up thwarting his attempts and escapes to freedom, leaving Patrick to continue sleeping soundly. The end. Plankton wins the race, of course, catches the Krabby Patty, wakes up, and turns the chum bucket gold? No, he takes over Bikini Bottom by having a really great restaurant chain. But, as the patty once said,
Are you sure about that? What the patty gives, the patty can take it away.
And Plankton subsequently
drowns in a sea of Krabby Patties!
The end. But surprise, surprise, you find out that it was Gary having this dream all along, which sort of makes sense. We're then given a cute little montage of Gary going around Bikini Bottom and seeing things that resemble his dream. It's kind of adorable, and a fitting way to end the game. Right up until it ends with this. What? He's just dead? And Gary doesn't even seem to care! Alright, I guess that's that. Now, that's the story, but we're not done here. Not by a long shot. Okay, now I want to talk to you about the music. Because holy guacamole, Batman, it is amazing. I adore every single track in CKK, to the point that you're definitely going to start hearing them in other videos from this point onward. I mean, just listen to this. CKK has some of the most varied gameplay I've ever seen, and it routinely changes up everything just to keep things from getting repetitive. You don't like racing? Well, now it's a linear platformer. Don't like linear platforming? Oh, that's okay. Now it's a puzzle-based collect-a-thon. Don't like puzzles?
Well, now you're strapped to a rocket tearing through the vacuum of space at the speed of light. You will never come down. You will continue to the farthest reaches of the universe. And then you shall know all there is to know.
Don't like wacky space shenanigans? Well, now you're tearing through a city like King Zilla? God Kong. I'm serious, I don't think I've ever seen a game try this hard to keep itself varied and interesting. And while it does repeat these sections at points throughout, they never overstay their welcome, at least in my opinion. And the regular stuff is broken up by intermediate minigames that are okay, a little janky, a little pointless, but at least you don't have to win them. At least not all of them, as far as I'm aware. So no harm done. And they help to give you a short break from the regular gameplay, keeping things from becoming too monotonous. Oh, and there are these things called seeds, I think. You can collect them in every level through various means, and they factor into the finale, which is definitely the strangest level, but it's a racing mission, which the game started off with in the earlier Spongebob Hot Rod bit, so it's at least familiar. I won't lie, these are the easiest sections of CKK, and the finale is no different. But you get to play it as either Spongebob, Patrick, or Plankton, each with their own separate endings. With Patrick though, it's a repeat of his rocket mission, which is cool I guess. Plankton doesn't get his own thing though, which is honestly a shame. He had the best levels in the game in my opinion, and I would have maybe liked a repeat of his platforming session for the finale. And no use crying over a 14-year-old game though, so let's move on. Now I absolutely cannot believe I almost forgot this little tidbit, but every level has some sort of old movie poster or comic book cover to go with it, and I love these. They have so much style and charm. And the fact that they could have just used a regular bland loading transition like everyone else was at the time makes these really stand out, which brings me to another standout feature of CKK, the sound design. Everything about the sounds in this game are perfection.
Well, these things are great.
The sounds of jumping, fighting enemies, picking up coins, even the checkpoint marker is just so pleasing to the ear. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons CKK stayed with me for so many years, despite me only ever getting to the finale level once in my lifetime. The sounds are so utterly memorable. It brings a tear to my eye just listening to them. Okay, that's pretty much all I wanted to say on the matter. I love this game, and I always will. If you want my advice, pick up a copy off eBay or some other site that isn't riddled with viruses and pop it into your PS2. You will not be disappointed. But if you are, please feel free to come rant about how wrong I was in the comments, because it does help the algorithm pick me up easier. And speaking of which, for just a moment, I'd like to talk about this. YouTube has decided to stop recommending me to viewers as much. My impressions have dropped drastically. So if you like my content, please like and subscribe, because otherwise, I think I'm going to be stuck in YouTube's void of nothingness for the rest of eternity. Anyway, with that being said, this is Cake Vibes. Oh, that sounds a bit weird. But I think I'll get used to it. This is Cake Vibes, signing off. Good night, YouTube.